All right, Nick. So getting right into it here, in the intro there, I called you the head home inspector for Pro-Spect, and I just want to make sure I've got that correct. What is the official title?
The official title is Field Services Director. So what that entails is basically we have a team of roughly 10 guys out in the field inspecting right now. So my job is to make sure they have everything they need, and it's more of a support role. But on top of that, helping maintain their licensing, their association dues, the fleet that we have out there. So everybody's provided a vehicle, so I manage the fleet as well. But also, maintaining relationships with agents and doing presentations and things of that nature. So, it's kind of an all-around role, but mostly on the operations.
Yeah, and still doing a few home inspections here and there, right?
Yep, whenever I can. It's nice to get out of the house. This has been a transition from home inspector to this leadership role. So there's a lot more working from home and things of that nature, virtual work. So getting out in the field again is really nice when I can.
Yeah, so it actually sounds like a little bit of marketing too. You're kind of outreach there, trying to spread the word and help build the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a number of inspectors that participate in this as well, but a lot of us will do office visits, on a monthly basis, just dropping in, seeing how everybody's doing, that kind of stuff. So we do a lot of that as well.
That's great. So Pro-Spect itself, the company, tell us a little bit more about Pro-Spect. I mean, obviously the locations you serve, and you guys have grown a ton since I've met you. Maybe you can give us a little bit of history on that.
Yeah, of course. We've grown a lot since I started 3 years ago, but the company's been around for about 10 years now. We might actually be around 12. But the company's based in Dover. So this division that I work in, we serve from Philadelphia all the way down to the Virginia line, basically. So all eastern shore of Maryland, Philadelphia, and then all of Delaware. So with that, there are some challenges, geographical differences between our groups of our teams of inspectors. But we also have new divisions in Florida. We have one in Lakeland, Central Florida, and then one in Jacksonville as well. And we recently acquired another company up in the Poconos. So we have some reach up into central Pennsylvania as well.
Yeah, so definitely scaling a little bit, growing. I can tell you from being a real estate broker and real estate agent myself. I mean, this is selfish, I guess, to some extent, but I really like your company because you service where we are. You service our whole area, on Delmarva here, which is fantastic. In the past, a couple of years ago, I think before we really met and I got introduced to your company, it was mixing and matching a little bit. Depending on geographical location, we might have to think about who we were going to call. But you guys are really servicing our whole area, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of a larger home inspection team. Most home inspection companies are 1 or 2 man operations. So you do run into some flexibility issues there with the geography of where they're located, but also their scheduling as well. So we try to keep all that open for all of our clients.
Yeah. And then thinking ahead a little bit, one of the things I think our clients like is just how you're a larger company, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels kind of, a little bit more like local to me. You guys have great personalities. You can communicate with the client, which is so important. And then also being a second home destination for us anyway, you have got great technology to be able to convey, the inspection reports to the seller if they don't, or to the buyer if they don't come.
Yeah, for sure. We are still we consider ourselves a small company. We're large for a home inspection company, but it's still a small family-owned company, and we're very family-oriented as well. So that keeps the mindset culturally small. But we are a large home inspection company, so we kind of reap the benefits of both.
Right. Ballpark, how many inspections do you think you guys did last year? Do you know what that?
Yeah, we did over 5,000 in the Dover division. So including Florida and the Poconos, we did over 6,000. Yeah.
How does that compare, to years prior? Obviously, you've had some growth years here, but at the same time, we've seen shifting in the market. We've seen buyers' thoughts on the importance of an inspection change a little bit. So how does 2022 stack up with, say, a 2020 or a 2019, maybe before the upswing?
Yeah. So 2020, I mean, these last few years have been just insane for everybody in the market. So it has kind of followed the same trend as real estate in general. So 2021 was our best year ever, just wildly successful. We were turning away business because we just didn't have enough capacity.
Right.
So a lot of low-hanging fruit there. But as we shifted into 2022, it became a lot more competitive for the buying side. So we saw some waving, but 2022 was still a great year, well over 2020 and 2019.
Yeah.
So now as we shift back away from that, as people have been priced out of the market, the demand has gone down a little bit, things are sitting on the market a little bit more, we've kind of stabilized. And what I mean by that is inspections were being waived for so long, and we felt that for so long. Now they're starting to come back. So even though the market's a little bit slower, the volume isn't as great, we're kind of stabilizing because inspections have come back in a big way.
Right. I mean, I totally see that. I mean, I think I've even done a reel or a video at one point on the return of the home inspection, because that was certainly something I do a lot with sellers, and I'm trying to help position my sellers. And when we had those multiple offer situations, we're always looking at trying to pick the one that might have been most advantageous to a seller, and a lot of times that was waiving the home inspection. But that's come back full circle now, and we're certainly starting to see definitely more inspection contingencies be a part of the situation. So I would think that, yeah, deals are down, transactions are down nationwide 33%, but I would think that overall inspections might be increasing a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
and with all of that waiving, now that people have had the chance to move into these homes and all that volume, all that transactional volume, people are starting to have a little bit of buyer's remorse with not getting their inspection. They're finding issues in their homes months later. They're like, man, I should have gotten that inspection. So now it's falling on a lot of the realtors to explain that to the buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen waive rates between 40% around here all the way up to near 90% in our Philadelphia market. And the Pennsylvania Realtors Association has recently come out saying that lawsuits are up over 300% on transactions that have waived the inspection, because now they feel like the realtor should be liable for what was not caught, during that transaction. So that's another reason we're seeing them come back in a big way. A lot of realtors are getting, flack for that. Have you guys had any experience with that recently?
No, I haven't seen that, knock on wood, obviously. But I mean, what I would say as a real estate agent, what we trained our agents to do is, we want to put our buyers and sellers in the best position that we possibly could. And we tried to have very, lengthy conversations as to what they could expect and what the outcome might be, depending on the decisions they made when they were getting ready to make a purchase. So I can't say we've seen that come back yet, but I have seen some stats nationally, and don't hold me to these numbers, but I think it was like 50% of the people who purchased during the peak of the pandemic had some, looking back on it, had some thoughts like, I don't know if this was the right home. And I would imagine some of that has to do with condition. Any home you buy, even if it's brand new, there's going to be some things that come up that you didn't expect. But I think some of it probably had to do with maybe the condition. Maybe they bit off a little bit more than they could chew. Some of them, I think, definitely made compromises based on location, just to be able to compete and get a home. So I could see where you could ultimately actually pick up some business or get a little busier with people who maybe waived it the first go around, and now they've noticed a few things and they're calling you just saying, hey, I want to get an inspection done.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of post-transaction inspections, which traditionally it's never been a thing. So we're getting a lot of calls now like, okay, well, I found this issue. What else might be lying in this house that I can't, determine? So we do get a lot of post-transaction inspections these days. Not that anybody can really be held accountable for that now, but at least the buyers know what condition the house is in now.
Right.
They can get the full picture, because I think the speed of the transactions over the last couple of years has been a lot of, where that comes from.
Right.
We need to do this. We need to jump on this now. We need to get in here, and we need to be competitive. And then once all the dust settles, they realize, okay, we might have some issues here.
Right. And it's funny, we're still seeing a little bit of that. I mean, ironically enough, I was just involved in a transaction, buyers that I was working with and helped here over the last week, and we presented an offer, and home had been on the market for like 90 days, no offers. Well, wouldn't you know it, the time we come in and make an offer, another offer came in, and we ultimately ended up losing. But I had the conversation with the other agent, and I said, so what was it that was the difference here? And he said, they waived all their contingencies. They had no home inspection contingency. So people are still doing it in certain circumstances. My buyer in that case, definitely we had an inspection contingency in there. So, but on to the next, for those buyers. And fortunately, we're in a market now where it's a little bit more advantageous for them to have those contingencies and that protection clause in there. So that's a good thing. I think for your business, it's a good thing for our clients and their protection. One thing I wanted to ask you here before I transition into today's market, maybe we're going to transition away from the market real quickly to maybe give us some insight to our listeners and our viewers here. Like, what are some of the things that seem to come up frequently that are bigger ticket items, or things that maybe get overlooked, or just things that you've come into that have surprised you?
Yeah.
Loaded question there.
No, yeah. As far as deterring a sale or delaying a sale, I mean, there are a few issues that come up pretty frequently, and there are a number of reasons for that. But, roof issues like leaks or roof damage, crawl space, moisture, mold, termite damage, or, anything like that comes up. They're all like really expensive things to fix. And they often come as a surprise because those are not well-traveled areas of the home. Right. I don't know how long you've lived in your house, but how many times have you been on your roof?
Once. Well, the roof. Sorry. I was thinking crawl space. Yeah. Once. Roof, never.
Yeah. So crawl space once, roof, never. The average length of home ownership right now is like 8 years. And within that 8 years, almost nobody goes in either of those places. So how can you know that there's a problem if you've never been there? So once the home inspector comes along, evaluates those areas, and these big issues come up, the sellers get upset because it's a surprise, and the buyers get upset because, well, I don't want to pay for that. I don't want to inherit this issue. So those tend to delay or deter transactions entirely. And that's home inspections come at this really unfortunate place in the transaction where most of the legwork is done, right? The offer's in, it's been accepted, pending this. So a lot hinges on the home inspection. So when these surprises come up, it really tends to delay things because now you're into negotiations and, sellers getting defensive and buyers getting, fearful that they're going to be, inheriting these problems. So traditionally where the home inspection falls in the transaction, it just naturally causes a lot of chaos.
Right. And especially, with the way the market, I keep thinking of it from like a real estate broker standpoint, right? And the way the market's been here, and the fact there's so many new agents or newer agents to the business who've never had to negotiate an inspection before. And that's where, I think it's like 25% of fallout of contracts right now. 25% of the transactions are not making it to settlement because of a fallout. And some of that is buyers like getting a little spooked, which could be as a result of the inspection, or it could be not being able to negotiate some of these repairs, right? And I think a lot of agents, to no fault, it's not their fault. It's just the way the market was. Just don't have a lot of experience when it comes to trying to have the buyer and the seller get all on the same page that these are items that have come up and we need to figure out a way to address them, thus negotiation. So we're seeing some more deals kind of fall apart.
Yeah, and speaking on agents not having that experience, there's been so much low-hanging fruit these last couple of years, right. Especially on the listing side. All you needed to do to sell a house for the last 2 years really is put it on the market, and you could pretty much price it however you wanted, and you get multiple offers, you pick of the litter. So yeah, now that real realtor work needs to be done, I think this is where the real experienced agents will shine. And the newer agents who are trained well and prepared for this, will come out on top.
Yeah, absolutely. So thinking about helping our clients and putting my listing agent hat on here, and in trying to think of ways to keep these transactions together, to have them, have sellers have a little more certainty, which then actually gives certainty to the buyer, would be an option of a pre-inspection. So a seller going ahead and getting the home inspected prior to going on the market. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Pre-listing inspections obviously have gone much more to the wayside than just a regular home inspection. Again, as the market has been in the seller's favor for so long, nobody would even dream of getting a pre-listing. But as things start to shift back now, where sellers have to be a little bit more competitive, houses are staying on the market longer, buyer volume is down, demand is a little bit down because people have been priced out. A pre-listing inspection kind of re-enters the conversation. It's a service that a lot of people have overlooked for a long time. But essentially, there's a number of benefits to getting one, but hasn't been needed for a long time. So the first and most obvious benefit is that you get a chance to understand the condition of your house before you put it on the market. You get a chance to get ahead of those issues, so they're not surprises when the buyer gets a home inspection and then you're negotiating, right? So understanding that condition, knowing what the issues are, getting ahead of them, or disclosing them and adjusting your price accordingly. That's another benefit. You get a more accurate kind of valuation of your house from your agent. You're not over asking or anything like that. It makes your listing more competitive. Some other benefits that get overlooked, probably the biggest one is, you as an agent can probably speak to this, but the hardest part that I hear about real estate transactions is getting the buyer to trust the seller. Developing that relationship and that trust between the two is really hard. A pre-listing inspection can do that all by itself, right? The seller is essentially saying, I've gone out of my way to do my due diligence, hire a third party to come, scrutinize my house and all that, and basically show me all the information about this house that you would have found later on. I'm putting myself out there. Here's all the evidence to justify my valuation of the house. Here's what I've done to fix these things. That goes a long way to build that trust between the two. Because most buyers, especially over the last 2 years, are thinking, what are these people hiding from me?
Right.
So there's that. And, there are other ancillary benefits, like you're saving potential buyers money. This makes you more competitive in that way, where if they see your home inspection report, your pre-listing, and what you've done, and you can justify that price, they probably are going to waive their own inspection. They're probably not going to get one now. They know everything that they would have found out later. Mm-hmm. It's all done, all dealt with, and they're going to save, $600 to $1,000 they can put towards a down payment or furnishing the home or whatever it may be. So you're saving them money as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's. I think if nothing else, it's a disclosure. Item. And in both Maryland and Delaware, we have different disclaimer laws, but this allows it to kind of suffice as a disclosure as to what they now know about the home. They don't necessarily have to fix the things, but they can put it out there, yep. Right? And then let that buyer make an informed decision. And it definitely will allow us to get ahead of any issues that, like you said, in those spots of the home are not very frequently traveled. It allows us to kind of know what's going on there. So that's I think it's a huge benefit, and something I'm going to continue to push here to my sellers, because I think it's going to set them apart, when they're up against other competition. One thing I did want to ask you on it before I forget here, but what are all the inspections that you as a company offer besides just a general home inspection?
Yeah. So most home inspectors, again, they're one or two man operations. They don't offer a lot of ancillary services that can get you a lot more information about the house. A home inspection, what goes into a home inspection, that's all written into standards of practice in both Maryland and Delaware. And it's actually pretty limited. A lot of people would be surprised to see what's actually required in a home inspection. For instance, home inspectors aren't even required to test your oven or your dishwasher.
Really?
Household appliances are not required to be part of the inspection. Most guys do it because they understand the value in that, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be done. So beyond that, That's just the home inspection. Beyond that, I mean, you can offer termite inspections, which we do, radon inspections, much more common up north, radon testing, but well water testing, well inspections, sewer scopes. We offer about 20 ancillary services, and we have people that are certified for all of that.
Got it. And are there, I mean, so you run into obviously separate rules, I guess, per county and location when it comes to like your septic and water quality and what's acceptable. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And because of that, we only offer like a septic inspection in certain locations because of the different requirements in each county and certifications and stuff. So overall, most of our guys are trained on these services and certified for performing them. But that doesn't necessarily mean we can do them in every place because of that local restriction. Got
it. So what am I missing? What am I forgetting here? I mean, you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to inspections. What do you want to share? What do you think would be beneficial to share with our clients? Anything else that I'm missing and asking you?
Just a few questions that everybody should be asking their home inspector before, during, and after the process of, who am I going to hire, all that kind of stuff. There's, the obvious, are you licensed and insured? But another question, which we just touched on, is what other services do you offer? What are you credentialed for? Because some people may offer a service that they're not necessarily certified to do. They may offer it because you want it. But if they're not qualified to do it or, whatever, you may run into issues with that. So those things, just kind of tailored to what you're looking to get out of the home inspection. Some other things to ask your home inspector are, what does that mean? A lot of people, after the inspection's done, the home inspector is going through the summary with them, the list of defects and issues that they found, but a lot of home inspectors have skilled labor backgrounds, skilled trades. So they're going to use a lot of technical language. Like if I told you the fascia is missing on the front of your house, most home buyers aren't going to understand what that means or why it's a problem.
Right.
So, any questions that come up during the summary or as you read through the report, follow up with the inspector, get it in layman's terms so you can set your own expectations for, how to move forward, right? And another important thing to ask is, how old are these major systems? How old is the roof? How old is the water heater? How old are the heating and cooling systems? They may be in great condition when the home inspector is there, so it's going to look in the report like everything is great. But if your roof is 25 years old, you may only have 5 more years before you have to replace it. So again, helping set those expectations for yourself and being planning for replacing of these expensive items. Everything has a finite lifespan in a home. So just getting an idea of where it is within that lifespan and what you can expect moving forward.
Got it. Here's one other thing that I get the question on, because typically we're the first point of contact as to even having the inspection talk, right? Yep. As an agent, when we're first getting ready to put together that offer, we're talking about, what we're going to put into it, what contingencies we're going to have. But I had this question the other day, and, I'd like to get your take on it, but you're putting together a offer. You say it's contingent upon a home inspection within a given period of time. And in our Maryland contracts now, and you can go through and basically select every possible contingency and or inspection ever, right? You can ever think of. And the question is, should we include the radon inspection? Should we include the mold inspection? What are your thoughts on, is that something that you necessarily want to always 100% include, or is it one of those things where the inspector sometimes gets out there and takes a look at what you have and then makes recommendations along the way? And some of that, is it based on location? You mentioned earlier, like radon. I mean, obviously radon seems to be more prevalent in certain areas. And I guess one thing I think about for the protection of the buyer sometimes is, are they getting taken advantage of? Are there some companies out there that are like, yep, we'll sign you up for that, we'll take that, well, and it might not necessarily be relevant, I'm guessing. So yep. What should we do there as agents?
Well, as agents, each state has its own requirements on those things as well. So for instance, like mold testing, actually in Delaware, I don't think it can be offered up front. It has to be, or it can't be upgraded on site. So it has to be in the contract that it's done,
Right.
or recommended, prior to it being done. So what we like to do is when people are scheduling a home inspection with us, we really talk them through these things. Is it just a concern because, for instance, the radon, you're moving to Sussex County, Delaware. It's well known that it's not very elevated here, in that area. So if it's a huge concern of yours because you're moving from an area of high radon, like the Poconos or, Philadelphia area, and you're moving away from there, if you're only concerned because your last house had it, it may not be that, necessary to get it. Something like that, though, is the only way to find out is to actually do the test. So
Got it. Yeah.
we try to talk them through it. We tell them the facts and let them make a decision. Most other things, we have the ability to do on site. So if you just order a home inspection and a termite inspection, and then we get there and we realize, okay, there's an irrigation system here. That's not normally included, but we can perform that service. And if the buyers have a concern about it, we can do it on site and, charge them accordingly. So Everybody has the option to kind of a la carte upgrade on site.
Got it. Yeah, and I think what I try to do is if the buyer has questions or concerns about it, point them in your direction. And I've always been hesitant as an agent to just go ahead and schedule the inspection for them. I'd prefer to have them speak to you and ultimately get a good a good comfort level of who's going to be doing the work for them. And I think that once you have a conversation with them, they typically have that comfort level. And that seems to be a spot where they can maybe ask some of those questions as to what inspections they may need. And you're right. In certain states, you need to put it in there right away as a contingency. In other states, it could be part of the negotiation. You could ask for it. Based on the findings of the inspection, we noticed that there was some mold/mildew in a spot. We recommend having it evaluated, and at that point, we might be able to add it on too. So, wealth of information. I really appreciate your time here. This is certainly going to benefit our listeners and people watching the podcast here. Anything else that you want to add?
No, just looking forward to a great 2023.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a great year. It's obviously going to be a different year, and the inspection is certainly going to be a bigger part of 2023 than it's been in the past. So,
I hope so.
I appreciate it, Nick. Here's to a happy 2023, and thanks again, everybody, for listening. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.